Okay, in this video, we're going to look at the rational zeros theorem to find the zeros of a polynomial. So the rational zeros rule says that you take the factors of the constant term divided by the factors of the leading term or the lead coefficient and try those, and those will be all of the possible rational numbers that could be a zero of the function. So the 7 is either plus or minus 1 plus or minus 7, and 2 is either plus or minus 1 plus or minus 2. So let me draw with something that's not rainbow. So let's list all the possible rational zeros. We could have 1 over 1. We could have negative 1 over 1. We could have 7 over 1. We could have negative 7 over 1. We could have 1 over 2. We could have negative 1 over 2. We could have 7 over 2, negative 7 over 2. So I've got a list of 8 possible zeros to try. And the way we're going to try them is with synthetic division. So I'm going to take these terms, 3, 2, 1, 0. So I've got 2, negative 9, 5, and 7. And now let's try the value 1. So we're going to bring our 2 down, and 1 times 2 is 2. And we're going to add down. Negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. I'm going to times 1 by negative 7. That makes negative 7. Add down. That makes negative 2. Times 1 by negative 2 makes negative 2. Add down makes 5. And since this is not 0, 1 was not a zero of the function. Now let's try negative 1. So I'm going to take 2, negative 9, 5, and 7, and I'm going to divide it by negative 1. So I'm going to bring the 2 down. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 9 times negative 9 plus negative 2 is negative 11. Negative 1 times negative 11 is positive 11. And I think you can kind of see that this is definitely not going to work, right? 5 plus 11 is 16, negative 16, and then this is not 0, right? I'm just going to put a sad face because it's not 0. So negative 1 didn't work. Let's try 7. So I've got 2, negative 9, 5, 7, and I'm going to try dividing by 7. So 2 comes down. 2 times 7 is 14. Negative 9 and 14 makes 5. 7 times 5 is 35, and I can tell that this is not going to work, right? Because now I'm timesing 7 by 40, that's 280, and when I add down, it's definitely not 0. I feel like negative 7 is not going to work. I mean, I could try it anyway. It's not like a long process. 2, negative 9, 5, 7. Let's try negative 7. So 2 comes down, 2, negative 14, and then negative 9 and negative 14 is negative 23. And now, again, I can see, like, at this moment that this is definitely not going to work because 7 times 23 is, what, 161 or something? Right? 140 plus 21. And that's definitely, like, not working, right? 165. And if I times negative 7 by 165, then I would not get just negative 7, right? Because the whole idea is to add the bottom to 0. So I'm going to put another frowny face there. Let's try 1/2. So let me get 2, -9, 5, and 7. So I'll bring the 2 down. 2 times 1/2 is 1. -9 plus 1 is -8. -8 times 1/2 is -4. 5 minus 4 is 1. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2. And 7 plus 1/2 is not 0. Could try -1/2. 2, -9, 5, 7. So I'll bring the 2 down. So -1/2 times 2 is -1. -9 plus -1 is -10. -10 times -1/2 is +5. Add down, 5 plus 5 is +10. -1/2 times 10, that's -5. And when I add those, oh, so close, still not 0. So we've knocked out almost all of these. Of course, it's the last ones, right? Okay, let's try 2, -9, 5, and 7 with 7/2. So we'll bring that 2 down. 2 times 7/2, the 2's cancel and I get 7. -9 plus 7 is -2. -2 times 7/2 makes -7. 5 plus -7 makes -2. -2 times 7/2 makes -7. Oh yeah. So 0. Booyah. That's awesome. So this guy is definitely a 0. X equals 7/2. Now, let's think about this. That means when we have x minus 7/2, then we have left over 2x squared minus 2x minus 2. And you see how these guys are all divisible by 2? So I'm going to factor that off. So I have x minus 7/2 times 2, and then x squared minus x minus 1. And what I am going to do is now I'm going to put these guys together. So 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times -7/2 is -7. And now the other factor is x squared minus x minus 1. Now, since that's quadratic, I can just use my quadratic formula or my rules of factoring. So my rules of factoring are like, hey, what times is to -1 and adds up to -1? And the answer is nothing. So I'm going to use my quadratic formula. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's +1 plus or minus. Now, and then underneath is a 2. Now I got to do this part under the radical. So -1 squared is +1. And then minus 4 times 1 times -1 is +4. So the number underneath the radical is a 5. So I've got 1 plus or minus rad 5. Big divides 2. You can write that as 1/2 plus or minus rad 5 over 2. You want to make sure that the 2 is going under both pieces. So, okay, our zeros are going to be 7/2, 1/2 plus rad 5 over 2, and 1/2 minus rad 5 over 2. Now, that's 3 zeros, right? 1, 2, 3. And we had a third-degree polynomial, so that's perfect. So our zeros are 7/2, which came from painstakingly using synthetic division until we found one that worked. And once we found one that worked, then we could use the quadratic formula for the rest.